Hello, and welcome to another episode of Speak, Film, and Enter, a podcast where we review and rank movies. I'm Nate.
And I'm Dylan.
And I'm Adam.
And today we've got the April Roundup for you, where we talk about everything that we watched that we didn't review or make an episode for. We review the new movies that come out, but we watch a lot of other stuff too. And we like to talk about that in a few different categories here. And this is kind of the space that we've dedicated to do that. So, Dylan, you want to give a little preview of what the Roundup's going to look like?
So, yeah, our Roundup episodes, we go around the room. There's 4 categories. There's Best New Watch, Best Rewatch, Worst of the Month, and then ones that we just want to talk about, miscellaneous. So, we try to keep it to those 4 categories. And I try not to double up on movies that we've already talked about and done reviews for, but sometimes it's unavoidable. But, yeah.
Right.
So
also a space if somebody like missed an episode that we did a review of where they can kind of add their thoughts to that movie too, if that's the case. But, so you guys want me to go first?
Actually, I'll go
does
first.
Somebody else want to go first?
I'll go first this month.
All right, wonderful.
So I have 2 movies for each category, and they each kind of pair well. It's kind of interesting. You'll see. But my first best new watch. Oh, and before I go any further, with all of the Nicolas Cage movies that I watched to do my life of an actor, followed up by all of these Tom Cruise movies that I've been watching for a future episode, just a little teaser. I put up some good numbers on the board this month, movie-wise. Yeah. Also, full disclaimer, it was rainy and not great for like 3 straight weekends. So before I say this number, it's not like I've just been cooped up inside and it's been a beautiful spring. It's been awful. There's been nothing else to do. I watched 36 movies last month.
Holy buckets, dude.
You beat me by 1.
Again?
Damn.
Yes.
Damn.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I really let it rip with the Nick Cage movies. And then the Tom Cruise, like, they both have so many movies. It's just.
Yeah. They do.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah. So, anyway, so 36 for me this month. I'm sure that number will go down, but now that it looks like we're finally going to have some nice weather ahead.
Now
but anyway,
the sun has been seen,
and it's not raining or
right now,
or 40-mile-an-hour winds when it's been above 50.
So my first best new watch is what prompted my background, and that is The 400 Blows, a classic French movie that is super like cinephile artsy, but just bear with me here. Nate, you came over and we watched this. It was on Criterion. We've been meaning to get to it for a while because it's one of the more highly regarded movies of all time, honestly. I don't know what the average is on Letterboxd, but it's pretty high up there. But yeah, so this is from 1959, The 400 Blows. It's about a young boy left without attention, delves into a life of petty crime. Directed by Francois Truffaut?
Truffaut?
You sort of left that open like either of us was going to know the answer to that.
Yeah.
I was hoping one of you guys would come to my rescue there, and you did not.
Can't do it.
But yeah, and it stars Jean-Pierre Léaud as Antoine, who is the main character. And basically, he plays a young boy who just gets in trouble and then keeps getting in trouble and then just doesn't stop. And it's just he just really loses like his whole life and like his whole family life. And it's really thought-provoking coming of age story about rebellion and family and just consequences for decision making. But it also it wouldn't work if it didn't have the fantastic performance by the lead, who I just mentioned, and I already forgot his name. I'm just going to go get it one more time. Jean-Pierre Léaud, whatever. But he was just incredible. I mean, just magnetic presence. Him and his friend, for a while they're kind of like a duo, getting into trouble, like stealing his dad's typewriter. Was it?
It was a typewriter from just like an office building.
Oh, okay. I thought it was his dad's office building.
That may have been from his, but it was an office building. That much I remember. Okay.
Yeah, but just get into, and for most of the movie, you're kind of like, oh, this is kind of cool. Like kid's being kind of a badass, getting in trouble, and you're like, oh, I wonder where this is going to go. And it is filmed and paced really well. The mom and the dad are cast really well. And then, it just keeps going. And it just really stuck with me. And I thought it was really fantastic and lived up to the hype. So I had to have that one at the top. I gave that a 4.5. Nate, I don't know. Did you have that on your list? Because if you don't, you could talk about it right now. If
I did have it on my list, although I was kind of if I went before you, I was going to have it be last and then let that kind of.
Okay, yeah, okay. I see what you're saying.
I can just talk about it when it's.
I'll toss it over to you right now. Yeah.
Oh, you okay? It's incredible, and like how you had mentioned, where I have the Criterion Channel app. And Dylan and I like to once every 3 weeks or so,
every blue moon,
watch some classic, usually foreign movie that's on the Criterion app. So like some Kurosawa movies and like Paths of Glory by Kubrick. Mm-hmm. And Bicycle Thieves is another one. Like we've watched a lot of really good movies. We've also watched some like very highly regarded movies that we thought sucked.
Oh, absolutely.
On Criterion as well. But whenever we talk about like what we're going to watch, sometimes it's usually either something really, really long, or we try to plan like a double feature that we think the two movies will work well together.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. There's some movies that I just don't think I could watch with anybody else because they're gonna be like, "Why are we watching this 1950s?" I'm not like it's pretty much you guys and a select number of other people, but
right. So 400 Blows had been one that for like a year, basically, it always came up in conversation, and we were always just like, "Yeah, not today,
not today."
And I went over to Dylan's and I got there and he had it queued up on Criterion already. Like before
I was about to hit play. I was like, we're not backing out. Like today is the day.
Today's the day.
Yes, we were watching this movie. And it's so fun and surprisingly funny. Mm-hmm. And I love how well paced it is. I mean, a lot of times you think of old movies as being kind of like stiff and slow. And that can be true. Oftentimes I feel like for some of the, especially like old Hollywood movies.
Yeah.
Can sometimes be like that, but lots of old movies can be slow and stiff and feel a little boring. But this was just so lively, and it felt so real. It didn't have that like studio feel that old Hollywood from the movies from the 50s and 40s do.
You were
out in the streets. It had amazing shots of Paris. I mean, this is one of the two movies with Cleo from 5 to 7 that I've kind of dubbed like two movies that make me feel like walking around Paris is the height of human existence. You just watch them and it looks like they're in the coolest place in the world. And I love this movie. I also gave it a 4.5. I have it in like just above 100, somewhere between like 100 and 110 on my top 150 list.
Yeah.
It's a phenomenal movie.
There. Yeah, so I had to just start with that. The 400 Blows, it lives up to the hype, at least in my opinion, and sounds like Nate in your opinion as well. So wanted to start there, and then pairing with that little duo here, another story about someone who's making bad decisions and just literally cannot stop, and that is the Nicolas Cage movie Leaving Las Vegas. Co-starring Elizabeth Shue, and this is basically it's about Ben Sanderson, a Hollywood screenwriter who lost everything because of his alcoholism, arrives in Las Vegas to drink himself to death. There, he meets and forms an uneasy friendship and non-interference pact with prostitute Sarah. So it's a story about two people definitely down on their luck. He goes just to drink himself to death. He makes that very clear to her. He's like, hey, we can hang out. And even like, because he's got a fair amount of money, like all of his money that he has left, he's sold all his stuff. He took his like severance from his job. That's what's going to happen. He's just going to be in Vegas until he dies. And so, he's even like, yeah, you can live with me. But the one rule is you can never, ever, ever tell me not to drink. Like you just have to roll with it. And like Nicolas Cage's portrayal of like a seriously clinically like problematic alcoholic is, I thought one of the best performances I've ever seen him give. Probably the best Nicolas Cage performance I've ever seen him give. The chemistry with Elizabeth Shue, like it turns into like a very like bittersweet, melancholy, like love story. Honestly, I thought they were both fantastic. Their chemistry was fantastic. And yeah, Nicolas Cage, I mean, he's just the highs when they're having a good time. And she's like, oh my God, I think I love this guy. And it's just like, yeah, like easy money, let's just, and then the crash when he like can't even like walk You know, 'cause it's just like, oh man. But yeah, hard to watch, but really, really well done. I gave it 4 stars. I could see it going up to 4.5 just on the performances and the chemistry of the two leads. So that was tough to watch, but I'm really glad I saw it, and a really good movie. That's Leaving Las Vegas. So those are my 2 best new watches.
Nice. I'll go next then, and since you brought up 400 Blows, I'll sub another one in. So I've got 2 other ones here that I want to talk about. Okay. First one, I just watched last week. It's a Scorsese movie that I had never seen before, from the early 90s, called The Age of Innocence.
Oh, okay.
Starring Daniel Day-Lewis, Winona Ryder, and Michelle Pfeiffer.
Oh, all right.
It's a period piece, like 1800s New York, based on like one of the most acclaimed American novels ever written. It was written in like the 1920s. In a world of tradition, in an age of innocence, they dared to break the rules. Tale of 19th century New York high society, in which a young lawyer falls in love with a woman separated from her husband while he is engaged to the woman's cousin. The woman he's engaged to is played by Winona Ryder, and then the woman that he kind of starts to fall for after the fact is played by Michelle Pfeiffer. And this is very, I mean, it felt similar in many ways thematically to some Jane Austen adaptations I've seen, without the sort of without the level of humor that those movies generally have. So it definitely felt, I mean, the costumes are amazing, the sets are amazing, it's filmed incredibly. There are a lot of really cool fades. I mean, it's Scorsese, so like, you know, it's really well put together.
Yeah,
the performances are great. It's a little long. It's like 2 hours and 15 minutes, I think. 2 hours and 18 minutes.
2:19 it says on IMDb.
Yeah, and it feels a little stuffy at times and a little slow at times. But man, the third act of this movie is unbelievable.
Okay.
It's one of those movies where you just kind of feel like, okay, they're kind of doing the same thing here for a while. Like, where is this going? Like, something needs to pick up. And the way that it sort of resolves itself, and the final shot, and like what ended up being the themes, are unbelievable. It's one of the best final shots I've ever seen. I gave this movie 4 out of 5 just because at times, like while watching, kind of in the middle, it started to drag for me a little bit. But I've been thinking about it a lot since I watched it.
Okay.
And it just ends up dealing with themes of feeling trapped by societal expectations. And kind of that's the allure for Daniel Day-Lewis's character, where he kind of sees a woman who's left her husband, which is like totally societally taboo in this time. And he kind of sees the freedom that she operates with, and this sort of how she doesn't let it bother her, and kind of lets the scorn of society sort of like brush off her shoulder, doesn't stick to her. And he finds that very appealing. And you can just see him like continually drawn to it. And then you get to sort of the end of the movie where it's, you know, is he going to give up all these comforts in order to have society shun him and have to kind of live his life without without kind of a home or a comfortable place or being part of society? Or like, is he going to be willing to give that up? Or is he going to decide to just marry Winona Ryder and live sort of the comfortable, bland life that he had been expecting and kind of okay with this entire time until something else was presented to him?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's where I found it fascinating, just like how relevant the themes of this felt for a movie based on a book that was written in the 1920s. I really like historical fiction, especially when it can provide a story that feels fresh and relevant to, I mean, it's like over 100 years. It's about 100 years since this book was written.
Yeah.
And it's 29 years since the movie came out. And it's just still so relevant from a character and like personal perspective. So I really, really like that. And then the other one is Dylan, the other movie that we watched with our double feature with 400 Blows.
Oh, yes.
Which is Withnail I.
Yeah.
Your cult comedy from England in the 1980s.
Yep. 80s British kind of counterculture comedy.
Yeah, definitely. Starring Richard E. Grant, Paul McGann, and Richard Griffiths, who everybody should know as Mr. Dursley from the Harry Potter movies. I had never seen him in anything else.
Yeah.
Really?
And all three actors are good in this movie. Richard E. Grant and Richard Griffiths give two of the best comedic performances I have ever seen.
Yeah.
I gave this one a 4.5. I absolutely loved this movie. It has, I mean, Dylan, you watched it with me, but Adam,
and I really liked it too. I think I gave it a strong 3.5, borderline 4. I thought it was really good.
I think thinking about the ending, because the end, it ceases to be a comedy in the last like 10 minutes and it turns into a tragedy. And if you're not really prepared for that tonal shift or aware of exactly what the movie's doing, you can just be like, this isn't funny. What's going on?
Yeah. Why are we doing this?
Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned that because my friend Marcos actually walked into the room like during the last 10 minutes.
Like, we were like, this movie's hilarious.
Yeah, he got back from whatever he was doing. And we were like, oh, yeah, it's the end of this comedy. And all he saw was like the heartbreaking last 5 minutes. And he was like, oh, cool.
Yeah, great movie, guys.
Yeah.
He's just like, this isn't funny at all. But I mean, it's a movie about sort of the death of the 60s and counterculture and like the death of youth and irresponsibility.
It's set in the 60s.
Yes, it takes place in 1969, like at the end of the year, basically. So it's kind of the 60s are counting down, and then that's kind of thematically what you get at the end of the movie, where you didn't realize that's where it was going the whole time when it was super funny. I mean, they're just two theater unemployed alcoholics who live in the city who decide to take a trip to the country to just kind of clear the air for a while. And so they stay at Withnail's uncle's sort of country house. And they get there and it's very fish out of water kind of movie where like they're two city guys who don't know how to do anything. Like the place they're staying at does not have electricity. It's like, it doesn't have heat. You know, they don't have anything. And just like watching them like fumble around. And like the first night they get there, they're like destroying the furniture so that they can start a fire.
Yeah.
And they're like, how long will this last? We're almost, and somebody's like, oh, I think we've got enough furniture until morning. And there were like at least a dozen lines that were so clever and witty. I just wanted on a t-shirt instantly. Like just the wordsmithing of this script was incredible. I thought it was hilarious. That said, it's not a comedy I would necessarily recommend to everyone.
No.
Like obscure 80s British, like dry humor is definitely not going to be up everyone's alley. It's not like a super bad type of thing. It's it's, I don't even really have anything to compare it to right now, but I thought it was phenomenal.
Yeah, and Richard E. Grant's character introduction in the movie is just great. Because you're following around the other guy for like the first 5 minutes, and then you meet Withnail, and his intro is just like immediately just like, oh my god, this is going to be
like they're huge alcoholics.
Just But
I wish I had written down some of the lines from the movie.
Yeah, me too.
Because they were incredible. But
and also like they're theater guys, so they're always like trying to quote like Shakespeare and stuff.
Yeah,
and being very over the top about everything.
They speak very elegantly.
Yeah,
it's really funny. Yeah, I mean, if that kind of sounds up your alley, there's certain people that I would highly recommend this to, and then there are certain people I would just say don't bother. But it was right up my alley.
I'm reading some of the quotes for this, and it looks pretty funny. So I'll have to check it out. I did Google it, and it's on HBO right now. So I'll have.
It is on HBO Max, and I will say it doesn't get super funny.
Yeah,
like, it's
but
more
situational.
It's more like chuckling funny until they get into the country, which is like 20 minutes into the movie.
Okay,
and then for me, it just like every line was gold.
And yeah, Richard Griffiths completely steals like the 4 scenes he's in. It's like not even fair. All right, to Adam.
All right. Well, I don't have any old movies to go off of. And actually, this is the only. I mean, sorry, guys. I did actually have a very busy April, as most of my months are, but my girlfriend's birthday, and we did stuff for that. And then we were out of town and shows and all that kind of thing.
Damn you.
So instead of getting to 36 movies, I got to 12, which all things considered.
Respectable.
pretty good for me.
Yeah.
And this is actually, I try not to double up on things we've already talked about throughout the month. But this is the only category I'm going to do that for today, because my best new watch was Princess Mononoke.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
I know we went through it, but it was I gave it a 4.5. The themes, I mean, go back and listen to that episode. Everything we talked about, the animation is great. The characters, Lady Iboshi is fantastic. Every aspect of that movie is a masterpiece. I want to rewatch it again to give it a true 5. Or I will probably give it a true 5, but it's at a 4.5 right now. So everything that I wanted to say was on that episode. So go check.
Yeah, we'll link to that during the episode here.
Yeah, and that's on HBO right now. If you also want to check that out. So that's my best new watch.
Nice. Right. I believe the 400 Blows is also on HBO Max.
Ooh, I can check.
Yeah, I believe it is too. All right.
Shall we move on to best rewatch?
Yes, so best rewatch. Both of these are comedies. I'm going in the complete opposite direction. I had 400 Blows and Leaving Las Vegas. Real tough stories of the endurance of the human spirit. And now I just want to be funny. So the first one, best rewatch, one of my favorite comedies of all time, and that is from 2007, Hot Fuzz.
Nice.
Starring Edgar Wright and written and directed by Edgar Wright, starring Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. Also has, I mean, just a who's who of British comedic actors: Martin Freeman, Bill Nye. Let's see. Well, a bunch of more names that you would recognize their face, but probably don't know their name. Olivia Colman is in this movie. Oh, it's one of those weird things where the cast is listed by not how it should be listed. Let's see. Timothy Dalton is in this movie. Jim Broadbent, Patty Considine. Yeah, just a fantastic ensemble cast for a comedy. And that's part of what makes a great comedy is all the little side characters have to be memorable. And I feel like almost all of the side characters in this are extremely memorable.
They're
honestly,
so
this movie just, it gives me like a rush every time I see it. I smile like almost start to finish. I had a really great time rewatching it. All the little one-liners still got me. It's basically my highest. It's one of my highest ranked 4.5 movies. I want to give it a 5. However, I looked at my top 100, and if we're talking strictly comedies, it actually is currently my highest rated strictly comedy of all time right now. So that's obviously not including things like, Fargo that have comedic elements, Christmas Story, even like romantic comedy like The Apartment. But I mean, if the intent is just to make jokes and be silly, I don't think it gets much better than Hot Fuzz. It gets
I need to rewatch this.
You really do, because I think you have it rated too low. I wasn't going to throw you under the bus, but now that you said you have to rewatch it, you absolutely have to rewatch this.
Yeah, this is a great movie.
No, you can throw me under the bus slightly. I mean, I think I have it as like a 3.5.
I think you might even have it as a 3, which breaks.
I might have it as a 3. I remember not
my heart.
thinking it was that great.
Oh God,
it's a little long. I mean, it's 2 hours. That's the only knock I remember having against it.
But on this, what I realize now on this rewatch is the last 30 minutes are straight action, like straight buddy cop action movie. Sure. I mean, I think people are on Letterboxd, one of the top comments says possibly the best homage to the action genre ever made, and I'm totally willing to die on that hill as well, because I mean, you can tell they love these movies. The references to Point Break, I mean, they're all with love.
Yeah, I've seen Point Break now.
This movie, yeah, you have, and Bad Boys 2. And just like, oh, which one do you want to watch? And he's like, I don't know, you pick. He's like, no, I mean, which one do you want to watch first? It's like 3 in the morning. Like, yes, like that is like
going to watch both.
Yeah, especially after we just rocked some of these Nick Cage, like Con Air, like Face Off. I think since you've already seen those, Hot Fuzz, just a great parody of all that. It gets me every single time. So I just had to say, I had to shout out that Hot Fuzz. And then the other comedy, which is also fantastic, is Raising Arizona, which we talked about. I believe
I rewatched that too.
Yep, on the last Roundup, and we watched it for the Nick Cage list. And man, it's just the Coen brothers at the height of their comedic powers, like the pacing and the goofiness mixed with also like sincerity. Like, it's silly, and everyone is like, oh, kind of a goofy cartoon of a person. But when the stakes get raised and things do kind of get into, like, you actually do feel for these people, like they're real people. They're not just there to make jokes. So I just think Raising Arizona, and great just comedic setup. I mean, stealing a baby, goofy, small town, petty criminal, like, yeah. So so those two, Hot Fuzz and Raising Arizona, were my two favorite rewatches of the month.
Nice. Well, we've already talked about, I only had 5 rewatches this month, and we've already talked about Raising Arizona and Princess Mononoke a bit. So I'll just mention another comedy that I rewatched and I was able to cement as something that I think is very funny and very enjoyable, and that's Game Night.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Nice. I've only seen that once.
Yeah, I watched it once in the theater when it came out, and I enjoyed it, but it had been a few years, and I was like, especially with comedies, I'm just kind of like, am I still going to find this funny?
Yeah.
And all I have to say about this movie is that Jesse Plemons is a god.
Yes. You want to talk about stealing scenes?
Oh
like,
my
comedically.
God. He is so funny in this movie. Just like the strange neighbor and the way he phrases some things. And that great bit in the credits sequence with his like plan. And you see like the big whiteboard and the vision board that he has is
how to
so
get invited
funny.
to game night.
Yeah, and like he emails Tostitos Scoops and they say they don't do 3 for 1, and he has like proof written in big letters. Like,
oh my God,
it's
3
so
bags
funny.
of Tostitos Scoops, I see.
Yeah, the way he says Scoops is so funny. And like when he finally invites them in and he doesn't say like come in, he just like backs into the darkness. And they're all like, wait, do we go inside? Not to quote the whole movie or anything, but I think Game Night's super fun and one of the best, I think, like sort of Hollywood ensemble comedies of the past 5 years or so. And then I will say right now, I will commit to rewatching Hot Fuzz before the next roundup.
Oh, okay. Yes. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, you have it as a 3 on Letterboxd. So
I do.
And so I have, and out of the Cornetto trilogy, which is Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and then The World's End, it's definitely my favorite. I also did rewatch The World's End, and it was a little bit better than I remembered, but still.
I remember not really liking World's End very much. I do really like
the first time I saw it, I didn't. It takes a hard left turn at the very end that really takes it down at least half a star for me.
I also just remember thinking it wasn't like as funny as I was
a little bit. They flip the dynamic where Simon Pegg is kind of the messed up guy, kind of the goofball, and Nick Frost is playing the straight man, and it doesn't quite work as well as the other way around. But all right,
Adam,
on to you, Nate.
You got for rewatches.
So my rewatches, I've talked about these ad nauseum. So I actually have 3. I'm just going to mention 2 of them very briefly because they were my favorite movies of the last year. When I was on the plane, I did a relay race with friends in California this last weekend. So I was able to watch Come On again because I haven't been able to find it. So it was on. So I watched that. And then I also watched 9 Days again, which cemented how much better I think 9 Days is than Come On. So I've raised it. The only bad part about that is I got caught talking to my seat neighbor, my friend, and I missed the very last scene of 9 Days. Literally, as he's running out, the pilot comes over and like 4 different times like pauses the movie to like, oh, yep, we're starting our descent, blah, 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 blah. And he's like 4 different. So it kept pausing. And then we landed and he turned it off. And I was like, you son of a bitch. I was so mad. It's like, that's the only part I want to see. It was infuriating. So I YouTubed it and watched the end of it when I got home. But so those were the 2 that I watched. And then my favorite rewatch, Nicolette and I spent a Friday evening and we rewatched Get Duked. And I love it. It's just so great. Yeah.
Yes.
I still think
it is.
You hated
it. So great. It's so
much fun. DJ Beetroot
and Goofy. Oh yeah. That's when they God, that's sharp. That fucking fork is sharp.
They rip up the map in like the middle of it to like make a blunt or make a joint, and it's so fun. I love the added visual effect for when they're high, after they eat the rabbit poop that's like hallucinogenic, and like the heads like start like pulsing and then they pop out at the screen at you, and everyone's just like getting wild in the barn.
The concert scene in the barn.
Yes. The second half
and the bread jokes, the bread thief. There's veterans who fought for this country who are going without their daily biscuits or whatever.
Yeah, whatever it is. And it's that part, like the police, that almost feels like a Hot Fuzz reference. Because they're in
some of that.
They're in, bumfuck nowhere. And there's the police force is the bread thief is their top case of the last decade, and one of them's like, no, we're gonna do actual police work. We're gonna find these people. Eddie Izzard is great as the killer guy. I don't know. I'm not looking at the page right now, but whatever his actual title is in the movie. Nate, I don't know. Just give another chance. I'm
not going to give it another chance.
He's not.
There are so many. I am fully committing to giving Hot Fuzz another chance. I'm not giving Get Duked another chance. There are like 1,000 movies I need to watch, and I'm not going to waste 2 hours rewatching Get Duked.
It's only 90 minutes.
Well, in that case,
come on.
All right.
So that was my best rewatch. We just giggled the whole way through and really loved it.
Nice.
I'm right.
I'm glad you like it. I'm not trying to. Yeah, it's just not my thing.
Yeah.
Nate tried to stop you from laughing the whole time, but overcame his hatred.
For all things fun.
He can't stop the world from laughing at this movie. He can't do it.
It's okay. There's plenty of movies I don't like that he likes. So one day we'll something we all enjoy. Dud of the month coming up next.
Okay, back to me. So for my duds of the month, for this duo, the common theme is they both suck. So
weird.
Yeah. So the first one is the brand new, hot off the presses, really bad Uncharted.
You watched that?
I haven't seen it.
2022. Yes, so it's available to stream for $20. So I acquired a copy.
Did you play the game first?
I figured I'd give it a chance, just because why not? Just saw all these kind of cheesy Nick Cage action movies. Like, let's see a new one, see how it holds up. And it's just really bad, and it's not funny, and the characters are flat, and Tom Holland is like, he's basically just like Peter Parker, but also doing like an Indiana Jones thing. Like, video game movies usually don't work, and this one especially. It starts with like, so that action scene that you see from the trailers where he's like hanging out the back of a plane and he has to like go from one cargo thing to another cargo thing, like 20,000 feet up in the air or whatever. Yeah. That's like the beginning of the movie. So within 5 to 10 minutes, it establishes like physics and action stuff that's just not like, it's just okay. Yeah, sure. So like, all right. So the target audience is like 10-year-olds, I guess. So I don't know. It just totally lost me. I gave it a 1.5. Real bummer. I hope that Tom Holland got a big fat paycheck, and I'm sure with Far From Home he did. So whatever. But Uncharted was not good. And then I briefly mentioned this on our Nick Cage Life of an Actor. I think it just came up for about 2 seconds. But the other movie was 2009's Knowing, which is like a sci-fi. MIT professor links a mysterious list of numbers from a time capsule to past and future disasters and sets out to prevent the ultimate catastrophe. And it's just silly and not great. And the end is just kind of like bad CGI disaster movie stuff. It's just, I don't know, avoided at all costs. So Uncharted and Knowing, those were definitely my duds of the month.
Okay. Yeah. So mine, I actually watched both of these movies on the same day.
Ooh, and one of them, just a tough day in April for you.
One of them is terrible and brand new, and the other one is really old and kind of meh. But I was hoping for greatness.
I think I know. Oh man, I actually hung out with you on this terrible, no good movie day.
You did. And you watched one of these you endured one of these.
I did. I almost included it as mine, but I'm like, Nate's gonna have it in his.
I do, and
you could tell the hatred he had after the movie. It's like
the funny thing is, I was the one who had to keep Dylan awake, and I'm the one who included it. But anyway, we'll get to that in a second. The first one is Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is trash. It's just so I did not like it. I thought the first one was like surprisingly kind of fun, and this one felt really, really lazy and has one of the dumbest subplots I've ever seen. So the less said about that, the better. Not good. Last thing I'll say, everybody under 10 in the showing that I went to loved it. So if you got younger kids, they're gonna like this movie.
Nailed it.
Okay.
The other one, though, is a French movie from 1969 called Army of Shadows, which has a phenomenal premise. Betrayed by an informant, Philippe finds himself trapped in a tortuous Nazi prison camp. Though Philippe escapes to rejoin the resistance in occupied Marseille, France, and extracts his revenge on the informant, he must continue a quiet, seemingly endless battle against the Nazis in an atmosphere of tension, paranoia, and distrust. So it's a
backstory is the director like has a personal connection to it because he like was
Jean-Pierre Melville. He was in the French Resistance.
Oh.
Yeah.
And I've never seen a French Resistance movie, period, I think. And then to like see a French one from the 60s with a guy who was in it. And it's, I mean, it's got a 4.2 average score on Letterboxd. 400 Blows is 4.3, by the way, Dylan. I looked that up.
Okay. Yeah.
And it sounded fantastic. And the thing from this description that most stood out to me was quiet and seemingly endless.
Yes.
Is that how you felt?
I did not experience very much tension or excitement or anything.
Definitely
it's just
not that.
I couldn't even tell you like any one thing they actually try to accomplish in the movie. Like there's really no plot to it. You just kind of observe them existing and like going to places and passing along information, but we don't know what they do like during the day. Like how, like why are they valuable to the French Resistance? How do they get information? There's no goal that they have in this other than to just like evade capture.
Yeah.
And so you just kind of watch them exist for like 2 hours and like 2.5 hours essentially.
Yep.
And it's just so slow and plotless, and it was a huge disappointment to me.
Yeah, me too. Thought we were gonna especially after seeing the 400 Blows. They're like, okay,
I was ready for another masterpiece.
Yep. And man, it was just not good. It was just not exciting. It's just very slow. And maybe at the time when it was released, it was more edgy, and a lot of cinephiles really like it. But yeah, it put me to sleep.
It feels like a film school movie to me.
Put me to sleep real hard.
Yeah, for sure. I had to wake Dylan up like 3 times.
It was like
2 hours and 25 minutes. If it doesn't have a plot and you can't really follow what's going on, like it's gonna get
it just
boring.
felt so repetitive.
We could follow that there was nothing going on.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
There's nothing interesting going on.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We also started it at like 9 p.m.
That'll hurt your chances. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, those are my 2.
So on to me. My biggest disappointments or duds of the month. We did get a chance to go to a premiere last month in April, and it was of Ambulance, and that was a steaming pile of dog poop. That's all I'm going to say. We kind of knew it was going to be, but it didn't make it better. And then
it was worse than I expected.
Yeah, it was worse than I expected.
And my expectations were not high.
Exactly.
Damn.
It was just so. All right.
Although Gyllenhaal does his best, I will say that.
Yeah, okay. As he always does.
Good job.
Yep.
So in preparation for the new Harry Potter movie, the new
Fantastic Beasts movie.
Excuse me. I watched for the first time The Crimes of Grindelwald, which is the second movie in the series. And obviously, I mean, I didn't watch it when it came out in 2018, I want to say. I waited until this year to see it, but I knew it didn't get great reviews. I watched it. It is bad. Nothing productive really happens. The magic is bad. They shoehorn in a bunch of monsters or creatures just to be like, look, we're still in the same trilogy. We're still in the same universe. And it's just, everything's out of place. It's just a vehicle to get to the next movie, which this new one kind of felt like a vehicle to get to the war, but it's still better than the second one. It was just subpar. I think I gave it a 2.5. Johnny Depp, it does an okay job as Grindelwald, albeit in a completely different regard to how the other people who have played Grindelwald have done it. He's more crazy and insane and believably evil, which makes it good, but it doesn't really capture what that character ends up being in the third movie, or moving forward how I think it's going to go. So those are my 2 duds. There's just not a lot to like.
I think I gave that movie a 1. So
yeah.
Right there with you.
Yeah, it was bad. I gave it a 2. I just looked. I gave it a 2.
There we go.
All right. So, moving on
category.
to our last one. Yeah, miscellaneous movies you just need to talk about.
So the theme for these 2 are romance tales.
Ooh.
Yes.
We get a lot of romance commentary from Dylan.
Romance stories from esteemed directors. So the first one is from 2017. That is the Paul Thomas Anderson film, Phantom Thread.
As I was watching Age of Innocence, I was like, I really need to watch Phantom Thread because it's also got Daniel Day-Lewis in it.
Yeah. So I was working overnights a couple weeks ago, just for 1 week. So my sleep schedule was all messed up, and it was like noon on a Wednesday, and I knew that I probably needed to like get some sleep, so I'd be ready to go to work at 7 p.m. And I was like, I need a movie that I'm interested in that I could watch, but if I fall asleep, it's not a big deal, and maybe it'll help me fall asleep. And the Phantom Thread, man, it just was perfect for that. Check, check, and check. Because I was intrigued. And I could tell it was very finely crafted, but it definitely put me to sleep. So I fell asleep about an hour in. I had to finish it the next day. And God, like for so much of this movie, it was like, I didn't like the main character, Daniel Day-Lewis's character. He's just a spoiled, bratty ladies man who just like, he's rude. And then like the love story, like you kind of want her to like leave him for most of it. And everything is so pretty, but like almost to the point of like I kind of was like hate watching it at a certain point. I'm like, God, like of course, like all these pretty dresses and all this fancy coffee. And I was like, God, Paul Anderson, like Thomas Anderson, like, give me a break. And then like in the last 20 minutes, there's a turn which then changes like the whole movie for me, honestly. And by the time it was over, I was just like, damn it, PTA, you did it again. Yeah. Like, you son of a bitch. I was like, you lulled me into a sense of thinking that I wasn't going to like this movie. And then the last 20 minutes happened. And now I'm like, oh yeah, you're a genius. I forgot. Whoops. My bad, PTA. So yeah, I thought it was really good. I gave it a 4 stars. I could see how people have it even higher. I could also see how if it's not for you, it could be really boring. And like, I can see people maybe just checking out halfway in or after the first act and being like, no, I don't care about any of these characters. But sure. It becomes a pretty interesting psychological kind of analysis of Daniel Day-Lewis's character. And of course, Daniel Day-Lewis is fantastic, as he always is, as well as Vicky Krieps as Alma. She was fantastic. Leslie Manville as Cyril. She was, PTA, he always gets fantastic performances out of his actors. And really deceptively good, but it is what you think it is. It's a 2-hour 10 movie about a 1950s high-end fashion dressmaker from Paul Thomas Anderson. So yeah. And then my second romance from an esteemed director is 1990s Wild at Heart, starring Nicolas Cage and Laura Dern, both very young. And this is from director David Lynch. And I believe on the last Roundup, I kind of talked about Blue Velvet, talked about how it was kind of a more accessible David Lynch film. And this one is as well. Basically, here's the plot for you. Young lovers, Sailor and Lula. How about those names? I mean, come on. Sailor and Lula.
It's very poetic.
It is. Run from the variety of weirdos that Lula's mom has hired to kill Sailor. So basically, the movie starts, and like the first thing you see, of course, because it's David Lynch, he doesn't care. He throws you right in the deep end of the pool. He's like, "Figure it out, kid." The first thing you see is like Nicolas Cage and Laura Dern like arrive at this place, and they're walking, and then suddenly like a hitman comes and tries to like stab Nicolas Cage, and they get into like an altercation, and he like kills him, and then he looks at the top of the stairs, and Laura Dern's mom is like, "Ha ha!" and then he like runs away, and it's just like, oh my god, like wow. But
I'll get you soon, my pretty her.
So basically, yeah, she's kind of like Laura Dern's dad was a crime boss. He died, so the mom took over. She really hates Nicolas Cage because he knows a dirty family secret, and also she tried to hook up with him, and he turned her down. So you got a lot of kind of crazy older woman like, nah, like you turned me down, how dare you? And then
how they sound, by the way.
Well, you know how David Lynch, you know how David Lynch characters are. It's all like it's 110% everything all the time.
Love it. I'm gonna have to
but like Nicolas Cage is like, so they're like kind of young lovers on the run. They do some like small crime stuff, but basically he kind of has like an Elvis accent, and the whole kind of like vibe of the movie is like desert, kind of lovers on the run, like guitar music, kind of like it's a lot of like cowboy boots and flame in the background while they drive away in their cool car. I mean, it's David Lynch, but I thought it was a really good time, and a lot of nudity and sex. And then the reason why I just had to talk about it is because in the third act, Willem Dafoe shows up.
I was gonna say I see that credit here,
and oh my god, just like really tries his best to steal the show. I mean, Nicolas Cage and Laura Dern are like lighting the screen on fire. Like their chemistry is unreal, and they're both just like so young and talented. And you're like, oh my god. And then he comes in, and you're like, oh my god, like damn, Willem Dafoe, like who are you? Like he's one of the creepiest, weirdest characters I've ever seen him portray. So just a fun movie, just really kind of a trip. So Wild at Heart 1990 is the other one I just had to talk about. And those are my Roundup movies.
I've got two things that I wanted to mention. The first one is a new comedy special on HBO from Gerard Carmichael, which is getting a lot of buzz. He hosted SNL like the day after it came out. It came out the first weekend of April. I don't want to spoil anything, but I will just say it is unlike any comedy special I've ever seen. And like one of the most like honest things I've ever seen somebody do on stage. And it just highly recommended basically for everyone.
I remember his
what
last
was his name
one.
Again?
Gerard Carmichael.
It's Jarrod. Gerard.
Errod.
Oh, Errod, excuse me. I remember his first one was shot in a special way. I think Bo Burnham did some of the visual shooting or framing of
Bo
shots.
Burnham produced and directed this one too.
Yeah, okay. So it's very visually appealing from what I remember, which means this one's going to be great too. And then obviously content. I haven't watched it yet, but it sounds like it's a slam dunk. So
yeah, definitely.
Nice.
Excellent.
And then the other one is a movie I just saw this past weekend, which just came out in theaters. I think it was one of those movies that got made in 2020 and was at one film festival, and then everything shut down, and they were like, let's just wait 2 years.
Let's just pretend that we didn't already release this.
Right. And then we'll give it to them in 2022.
Find the people who went to the screening.
Word of mouth advertising.
Do not defy me.
And this movie is called The Duke. And it is just
it's like
charming...
Get Duke. That's why you liked it.
What did you say?
Nothing.
It's like Get Duke. That's why you liked it.
Oh yeah.
Movies are more than just the name, Nate.
It's a charming Adam froze for a second, so I got very distracted.
Apologies.
You're good now.
Okay.
You just froze mid laugh. So yeah. Just a wonderful very British comedy starring Jim Broadbent and Helen Mirren.
Oh, great.
As a married couple. It's based on a true story. It's called A Priceless True Story. In 1961, a 60-year-old taxi driver stole Goya's portrait of the Duke of Wellington from the National Gallery in London. It was the first and remains the only theft in the gallery's history. What happened next became the stuff of legend. And Jim Broadbent plays said thief.
I didn't know that name, but it looks like
Jim Broadbent plays Slughorn in the Harry Potter movies.
There we go. Okay.
For those of you who aren't familiar with him.
Yep.
He's also the chief of police in Hot Fuzz.
Oh, yeah, he is.
Honestly, the biggest reason I was like, I should watch this again was because you said Jim Broadbent is in it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's just the best.
After watching The Duke, the movie's well made. The script is good. It's a funny, well made movie. But Jim Broadbent is the whole reason to see it. He just steals every scene he's in. He is everything to that movie. He's just charming and mischievous and clever and funny. And him and Helen Mirren have some great old married couple banter. And he's really funny because he's a local activist. His big cause is that he wants TV to be free. And I guess in the 60s they used in England, you had to pay this TV tax to get the BBC.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So he did something where he removed the coil from the TV that feeds BBC to your television set, and then said well, I took this out, so I don't even get BBC, so you can't charge me. And there's that's illegal, sir. And he goes to jail for 13 days at the beginning of the movie for failure to pay his TV tax. And so like when he steals this painting, he uses it as like leverage and he like ransoms it to get everybody free TV.
A man of the people.
Which is just so funny. And he always has these like little causes. Like he loses his job because he's standing up to his boss for like racism in the workplace. And like he's just a cool, fun guy. And it's just great to follow him. I saw this at the Lagoon, and I think I was half the age of the next youngest person in the theater.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. And I will say, though, the over 60 crowd was loving this movie.
Okay.
Nice.
So I really enjoyed this, and I will definitely be watching this again once it's on streaming somewhere.
Okay.
All right. Cool.
All right. So on to me. So my miscellaneous movie, or something I just need to talk about. I did find time to go to a friend's place to watch a movie this week or this month, and we watched something that this group of friends really loves. It's an Elijah Wood movie, so it's strange.
This is how you ended up watching this movie.
Yes. He picks the weirdest projects, and they're always fun. This is 2019's Come to Daddy.
Oh yeah, okay, I saw this.
I've been meaning to watch this.
Yeah, it's bizarre. So if you don't know what it's about,
it is.
Let me read. A man in his 30s travels to a remote cabin to reconnect with his estranged father. So the movie starts out. Elijah Wood is some like big like LA producer, like music producer, and like is good on the beats and all that kind of stuff. And he takes a trip out to like, it looks like the Oregonian wilderness, like on the coast. There's just a cool little like bachelor pad to go see his dad, who he hasn't seen since he was a kid. And they just like have dinner, and he meets him, and they talk about, things. And then it kind of shows up that his dad has an alcohol problem, and Elijah Wood's character is just getting over an alcohol problem, but his dad like really wants him to drink, and that goes back and forth, causes tension. And then the movie completely changes in the middle, and it's just like, wait, what the fuck's going on? It's a crime, mystery, horror thriller. It's and comedy. It's bonkers. It's just weird. It's super fun. I don't want to give anything else away because
don't tell me anything else, because I still need to watch this movie.
That's it. But Elijah Wood just plays this odd looking dude. He's got like a almost like a bowl cut, except it's really short. It's almost like it's a fade, but it's a bowl cut. He wears like weird cardigan dresses. Like it dresses really strange, like just an LA type.
And he's got that mustache too, right?
Yeah, he's got this tiny little mustache. It's so funny. I gave it a 3.5, almost a 4. I'd like to see it again. On Letterboxd. Dylan, what were you gonna say?
Yeah, I was gonna say, and Nate, sometimes we mentioned like when we talked about like Knives Out and Parasite, how sometimes the structure that they're in, if it's like a house or whatever, if it's just perfect for the story, it can just add so much. And I feel like this is kind of one of those examples
100%.
where like I don't know where they found that seaside house. I don't know where, but it's just perfect for what this movie like
it's the
is.
Coolest thing.
And, so.
Nice.
It's got like a little like those old like 1960s bars where there's like the fairy lights and like the wood paneling all throughout the house, so it really dates the house. It's its own character in the movie. It's a lot of fun. I would recommend it. We should almost watch it if you've got time and really want to see it in the next month. It is on Prime right now, Amazon Prime. So nice. If you guys want to, if the listeners or watchers want to check it out, that's where you can find it. But I just had to talk about it because my friends love this movie. They've been trying to get me to watch it for a while, and I was like, it's Elijah Wood.
It seems like a good movie to watch in a group.
Yeah.
Instead of like
under the radar. It's kind of like a word of mouth movie at this point.
Yeah.
Have you seen that weird Elijah Wood movie, Come to Daddy?
Which one?
He has a strange Netflix movie that I've been meaning to watch since it came out, called like I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore.
Yeah, I haven't seen that either, but I've been looking at that too.
Yeah.
Where he's like a weird neighbor that does like karate in his front yard, and then like his neighbor, she witnesses she has like something stolen from her, and she like enlists him to help get it back.
Yeah. Well, I think, he took a really great career path by getting that Lord of the Rings money right away, so he can just do whatever he wants for the rest of his life.
Yeah. Well, he makes a lot of weird genre movies.
Yeah.
And that's produces a lot of stuff too.
If this helps you at all gauge how weird this movie is, his first name in the movie is Norval. Norval.
That And I'm not saying this just because of Neville, but like I feel like a lot of the kids who go to Hogwarts have kind of strange names.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That sounds like a Hogwarts name for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very strange. I didn't know what I was getting into because my friends were all about it, and I was like, "Don't tell me anything. I don't watch trailers. I don't want to know too much going in. I wanted to know like what the premise was, and it was he's going to meet his dad. That's it. So highly recommend checking it out. Get a group together and watch it. So
nice.
That's it
all
for
right.
me.
Well, that was a good roundup for April. And we got out there as quick as we could. We usually try to get them in at the very end of the month that we're talking about, but beginning of the next month is fine too.
Yeah.
All right. Is there anything else, or whose turn is it to put a wrap on the show?
I've got it.
Adam's got it.
All right. Take it away, Adam.
God help us. We're in the hands of engineers.